Hi guys, welcome back to another new episode of Paddock 43. We are fast approaching the Australian Grand Prix, so we have much to catch up on. But before we dive into the global phenomenon that is what we're about to discuss, and that is Drive to Survive, we have to start this with something like a little bit personal to Pat and I. In 2025,
is it embarrassing, or is it?
I think anyone looking at us thought it was embarrassing,
No.
possibly. I mean, anyone that discovers us.
Sorry, when I say embarrassing, it was incredibly exciting, but maybe now, is it embarrassing?
I don't know. It depends how you look at it. If you look at how we looked at the time, it was embarrassing. But in 2025, in Jan, actually, I think it was Feb, we thought we got a spam email from some producers at BoxBox. And Box to Box, sorry, I should say. And we were like, that's spam. Why would Drives to Survive want us on their phenomenal show that has just changed the sport forever? And they asked us to potentially be involved in the next season. And we said yes. Turned out it wasn't a scam.
And LinkedIn search?
Yes, we had everyone on LinkedIn being like, is this legit? We had a whole search party going out. And anyway, we were obviously very, very excited, but we have some very personal news to share with you that we have officially been cut from the new season of Drive to Survive.
Which is the embarrassing part.
We have the series director here to ask him why. David Hayes, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Why did you cut us?
That's a tricky question. Oh, yeah. It was really fun filming with you guys, though. And it wasn't you. It's not you, it's us.
That's what they all say.
What did we? Yeah, we shot. We filmed outside that cafe, didn't we? And you guys were recording the podcast, talking about all the rumors for that year.
Yes. And to set the scene, we were about to go to Glamour on the Grid, so we had our hair and full makeup glam, so we looked like idiots.
You looked great, and you were great. And do you know what? We shot. I mean, this is our eternal problem making the show. We shoot so much for this show, and we have to get it down to these 35, 40-minute episodes. And yeah, we did lots of filming in Melbourne, and then the race was so dramatic, and we had so much story for that episode. And yeah, you guys were one of the casualties, I'm afraid.
Look, we understand that. The drivers and the on-track action of the first race of the season takes preference over Paddock 43 podcast.
It's fine. We'll just remember it for the rest of our lives.
But it was actually very cool. We did like a makeshift setup of the podcast and sort of pretended that we were recording and spoke about the race. And there's something, the preview of AusGP, and something that I will mention that I was actually slightly worried about was the fact that obviously it was the first season that we had the rookies. And there was one part where we spoke a lot about the rookies and what's going to happen with the rookies. And I actually made a comment, which I very swiftly took back throughout the season, about Isaac Hadjar, that I said, I'm not a fan of him. I just don't like how he's portrayed himself. I don't like how he has been when he was a rookie, when he was a reserve driver, and his attitude. And then obviously what happened at AusGP last year. And I was like, oh my goodness. They are going to cut me saying that and then cut to him. And then everyone is going to pile on me saying that I am the biggest bully. But anyway, so in that sense, I'm thankful. And also my stance has changed on Isaac Hadjar. He absolutely proved himself last season.
You've been living in fear.
Yes.
Yeah, he did.
She has been. Living in fear until we got your email the other week.
It's so hard breaking. It's always hard, breaking the news, because we work with so many people, we film with so many people, and we need that like energy, and it is really tricky when we have to make edits and then things don't make the cut. But yeah, I hope you guys can forgive us, and hopefully when you watch the episode you will enjoy it despite being.
We'll understand it. It's okay. We've still got our memories and our friendships, so that's what matters. But I wanted to ask, off the back of that, how many hours of footage are you actually working with per season?
I don't. We've never kind of actually, worked that out. But it is it's a lot of hours. Yeah. So we cover we covered all the races last year. We have a team, we have teams working with the drivers away from the track as well. So yeah, we're filming pretty constantly throughout the year. And then, it comes down to it, and we have these episodes that, sometimes a bit longer, but, the shorter ones are kind of 35 minutes. And we have to get all of that material right down. And yeah, I mean, the ratio is big. But that's because our show kind of lives and dies by authenticity, right? We want those moments that you don't, have control over. And so you have to have the camera rolling because you don't want to miss something. So yeah, Grand Prix weekend, we'll be rolling, 4 days straight. We might use that tiny moment where a character has revealed something or we've seen something, but it's worth it, and that's the nature of this show. Is you have to kind of, have to really kind of be in it all the time in order to get those little moments that are the kind of seed of a story or reveal something about the character that you don't yet know. So yeah, in answer to your question, I don't know exactly, but it's a hell of a lot of hours of footage that comes down to make the episodes.
Do you know, it's funny. I mean, two things, but first off, the observation of the fact that you say character rather than driver. Granted that it's not necessarily a driver, it could also be a principal or team
journalist
member, but I guess that makes sense as to they are characters in a show. But I do remember as well last year, we filmed on the Wednesday, so many cameras hanging around AusGP, but then as soon as we filmed, we met the team. You guys were also lovely, and obviously we were very much aware who the Netflix team was. The amount of times we saw you guys like, hey, you're all running.
You're everywhere.
With your ginormous equipment, and you were everywhere. Everywhere.
We have to be. Yeah, we have to be. And obviously we're so lucky that the sport and the teams and the drivers have embraced what we do and, give us that access. So yeah, we'll always take advantage of whatever access they're giving. So yeah, we've got to be everywhere to, you never know. And that race was a really good example of, you never know where the story's going to come from, right? So you sometimes have to just commit, right? We're gonna follow this driver or team principal and see what happens to them, and then occasionally something completely unexpected might happen, and we have to pivot and we have to make those decisions about, what's the most interesting story happening right now. So yeah, but that's good to know that you saw us everywhere, because that says we're doing our job.
Yeah, you can let your bosses know on Netflix that you're on the ball, because we were like, these guys do not stop. Like,
literally. People say we don't stop. Amazing. We're like, no, they don't stop.
Yeah. So I want to go back to the beginning of Drive to Survive, and really how its origin story began. Who pitched it? Was it hard to sell? Was there resistance from the teams? Like, how was it?
So the first thing to say is that I've only been involved since season 6. So this is so I've just done my 3rd year on the show. So I wasn't part of the original team. But as far as I know, yeah, it was, so the executive producers, James Gay Reese and Paul Martin, I think they were originally talking to Red Bull about a series following the Red Bull team. And then I think it was a combination of, F1 and Box to Box saying, actually, why don't we cover all the teams? And I think that's how it started. F1 were keen to let them in at the time. And it all went from there. The growth has been huge.
Oh gosh, yeah. I remember the first couple of seasons, not all the teams were featuring.
Like, there were definitely teams.
Didn't have Mercedes.
Yeah. I mean, as I say, I wasn't involved, but I've heard that there were teams that weren't sure about it, and I think after season 1, they were like, we want to be involved, because they saw what we were doing.
Because how it was originally filmed in those first couple of seasons went consecutively with the races. So it always started with AusGP and then it followed the races. It's no longer like that now. You follow the narrative more. So why was that such a change Because sometimes I watch the season, I'm like, oh wait, we're back at the AusGP now.
Yeah, so I think, what we're looking for is stories that the kind of sports broadcasters, if you like, aren't telling. So, there's plenty of broadcasters, here in the UK, over in Oz, and they are telling, the racing stories every week, and that goes from race to race to race. And obviously those are brilliant stories, and those are kind of very sporting focused. Drive to Survive has an element of that, of course. But I guess what we're looking for and more interested in is the character. Like you mentioned that word character. Like, who are the characters, and what can we, with the access we're given, what character story can we tell that maybe the cameras who are there just for the sport element of it can't tell? So I think for that reason, some of our episodes, will go back in time a little bit, because if we join a character, in Miami, for example, that might be like quite an important moment in their story, but something might have happened to them at the first race that's relevant to their story for the year. So we sometimes jump about, and it's always led by that character and what's happened to them and how it affects their kind of present state of mind or decision making. So yeah, it's interesting to notice how it's changed over the years.
Oh, definitely.
I always think back to the very first year that Drive to Survive was filmed, and I myself was working at the Australian Grand Prix Corporation at the time, and I remember standing above the podium where I was not really supposed to be, and now no one's allowed above there. And I just had my phone out, and I was like holding my camera like this, and I've got like someone took a photo of me from like underneath the podium, because I had all the Netflix team there, like, and they're filming above, and there's just this girl with a phone, like over it. But I didn't understand what was being filmed. I was working at the corporation, but we just knew there was something going on, and there was like a show potentially being filmed, and that was about it.
So I mean, you were there before me then. You saw the origins.
You are the origin now.
I joined on season 6, and I was very familiar with the show, and I loved the show, but I wasn't overly familiar with the world of F1. So yeah, I came into the show with a knowledge of what it was, but like less of a knowledge about how much it had impacted the sport. And obviously since then, I've come to realize how massive it's been. But yeah, so you were there at the start.
Yeah, apparently. I'll show you the photo afterwards, and then you can see if you can pick anyone out that's still there.
So, David, I was going to say, I know that you haven't been there since the beginning, but amongst your colleagues, anyone that has been there from the beginning, from their eyes, what did it feel like seeing the change in F1 and how the TV show has changed the sport?
I mean, you would have even just seen it since season 6 as well.
Yeah.
Do you mean the change in the kind of global attention and how the Paddock's changed? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think I've only been there 3 years, but even in that time, I've seen a shift, and I think that comes from a combination of things. Perhaps I think in terms of how I consume like daily F1 news, gossip, all of that stuff, social media has obviously played a massive role in that, hasn't it? In terms of, a fan base that have come to the sport, maybe through Drive to Survive or maybe through something else, now has this like daily social media world to engage with, all the drivers, all the TPs, all the teams. And I think I've noticed, particularly over the last 3 years, how the teams have really lent into that, and their social media teams are now much bigger. I think, it's a huge part of it now. And obviously we follow the drivers, all the time, and they're constantly doing little kind of pieces to camera for their comms teams. And I think that like the way in which the teams are connecting the drivers to the fans is great. And I think that's changed quite a lot since I've been involved, and definitely since we started making the show all those years ago.
Does that make things easier for you now that the teams have huge social media and content teams, that they're constantly filming and talking to admin, as a social media manager is called in a sporting code, and then you can just jump in and film it because you're like, great, thanks guys, we got the content.
To be honest, though, quite often the comms teams, because quite a lot of what we do is with a boom microphone, as you've seen, so the kind of big microphone in the paddock that we use. And quite often, because the comms teams are shooting portrait, they're like, get the boom out, So so often we're like getting in trouble for that. But no, it's great. It's always good, when other people are asking our drivers how they feel, because we're there, we then get to kind of get a little bit of that. But obviously the gold for us is what happens away from other cameras, and when the drivers either back in their driver room or in hospitality, on their own, those are the moments that are more special for us because no one else is capturing it. So yeah, I think the social media stuff is quite fun to shoot, but yeah, we always prefer it when we're the only camera in the room, I guess.
Well, you have a lot of access in the paddock on that. When everything was changing, when Drive to Survive has been booming and still is, how do you think the whole paddock took it? Because I remember a time where you could just walk into the paddock, or Lewis Hamilton would stop for a chat, but that's not the case anymore.
Yeah, the paddock is a hectic place, but it's a really fun place to shoot because it's really energetic, and also everyone's in uniform, and people in uniform look really good on camera, and like punchy colors. You follow a Ferrari mechanic down the paddock, and that red, like an Aston Martin green. It's as filmmakers, it's a really fun place to be because everything is super super visual.
Especially
yeah,
when you
I can
see a
imagine
Ferrari mechanic smoking.
Yeah, shoot it. It's perfect. Some questions. They know what we're up to though. Like occasionally you'll just be like, and the guys will just look at you and be like, I know exactly what you're doing. But again, it's full of characters. It's full of characters.
Yeah, I was going to ask as well on the topic of the growth of the show and the influence the show has had on the entire F1 world, but specifically within the US. Do you see a connection between the growth of Drive to Survive and the growth of F1 within the US market?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think it's been hugely influential. And yeah, I think as a show, we're really proud of that we've been able to take these great stories to an audience that might not have had them before. I'm really excited about filming with Cadillac this year. And I think that's a sign of the times as well. The fact that they're joining the grid and there's going to be a bit more of an American presence, I think is exciting for us and for the sport as well.
I watched an interview just the other day with Valtteri and Kim, who is the Australian photographer in the paddock, who I'm sure you're very familiar with. And they were chatting in the winery, being like, do we think that Cadillac is going to be featured in Drive to Survive this year? So there you go. There's confirmation, Valtteri, if you're looking for it. We have it right here.
Checo and Valtteri are great, great characters, and they've been in the show in the past, and we're lucky that they're coming back, I think.
Well, I think they also understand the commercial value that Drive to Survive brings to the sport, whereas some other drivers may not enjoy it because it becomes more of a celebrity fanfare and not to quote someone, we're here to drive, not do anything else. And, media is already, we talk about it all the time, the amount of media that these guys do leading up into a race, qualifying, practice, all of it, driving at those speeds, high intensity, throw in some heat, such as Qatar, it's intense. But we have AFL, Aussie Football League guys here in Australia that, for the 48 hours prior to a 2-hour game, you cannot talk to them. They must be in their Zen zone, no media, nothing. It's amazing what they do and that you can just be there all the time. And Valtteri made a comment in this interview with Kim or sit down chat, whatever it was, that sometimes the drivers will film all throughout their breaks or have like a solid 8-12-hour days, and then it never makes it just gets left on the floor in the cutting room pretty much.
Well, now we can say that
we're part
of it. Okay, we've been there too.
Yeah, we we're really lucky that we get access to these guys, and we massively appreciate any time that any driver gives to us. And it's we'll always go into a shoot with them with the intention of that being used and fitting it into a story. But with hundreds of hours of footage and relatively punchy short episodes, obviously we can't use everything. So yeah, we try and like keep them on side, and we hope that, they understand the process a little bit as well. But ultimately we do feel really privileged to be in there with them, and filming with them in those moments. So yeah, we're always like trying to make the most of what we get with those guys, because their time is obviously precious.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you guys. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, you guys are building the ultimate archive.
Yeah, there's a lot of footage. Yeah, there's a lot of footage. Valtteri's box office though,
he's fantastic. He's absolutely fantastic. I was going to ask, on the topic of drivers, do you find that Drive to Survive has turned drivers into celebrities beyond the sport?
Perhaps, yeah. I think it's probably a combination, right? I think Drive to Survive has raised the profile of some of the drivers, but I think also the teams are doing that themselves as well through social media, and obviously as the sport's grown bigger, even the kind of day-to-day broadcast coverage, that I think that's made them incredibly famous as well. But yeah, perhaps our show, you get to see a little bit of what happens away from the track, which is something that is really important to us, because that's where we feel like we kind of get to know these guys in a slightly different way to what you might see at the in the broadcast coverage every week. So yeah, I guess in those moments, that's where hopefully we're showing them in an authentic way, and fans will respond to that. And yeah, so I think it's probably fair to say that we've contributed to a bit of that. Yeah.
Well, Drive to Survive is almost like, what's the word? Not committing, attributing. That's maybe not the right word. I don't know. It's like here in Australia right now, forgive me, but it is influencing probably a lot more commercial agreements than anyone actually realizes. And that could be negotiations, brands with contracts, teams, all of that. Do you think it does influence that?
I mean, it's obviously it's not something we're involved in, but yeah, the show gets watched by a lot of people. So of course, if you're running a team, you're going to want your logos in that show. So yeah, I'm sure there's an element of that. But I think that's why the teams want to be involved. Firstly, because I think they want us to tell these stories about what's happening in the season, but also they want to be seen by, they want new fans, and they want eyeballs on their sponsors, of course. So yeah, I think that definitely is a part of it for sure.
I guess as a sponsor, you're going in though with the mindset that you don't know if you will be featured a lot.
No, of course not. Yeah. There's never kind of any guarantee. So
no, there's never any guarantee, exactly what you said before as well, how the season will turn out as well. You say hundreds, you'd have thousands and thousands, and one day someone's going to look back and it's going to be 2050, and you're going to be responsible for some of the most incredible archives in history of Formula One. We were just at the Formula One Motorsport Museum recently, and everyone that's collected that information over the years is phenomenal. And you're contributing to that, which I do think is incredible. But on the incredible side, there's also criticism. Pat and I get it all the time as females working in Formula One through podcasts and social media. People just cop it to us all the time and go, oh, you're just Drive to Survive fans. And we go, well, we've been watching this sport since we were little, but also it's no issue if we are. That's what the show was for, to bring in new fans and to keep the sport going. But a lot of people then go, it's just creating drama and it's manufacturing rivalries. Like, how do you think about that the show does manufacture rivalries, because they are characters at the same time?
Yeah, our goal is to represent things as authentically as possible, and that's what we set out to do, and that's our agreement with the teams and with the sport, is that we want to go in and we're lucky to have all this access, and we want to tell the stories in the most powerful way. And sometimes mistakes have been made. There was a mistake last year. I think it was last year, season 7, where we had a shot of Max in the cool down room, and it was from a different race, and that was flagged, and we dealt with that. So when a mistake's been made, like human error, then that's our bad, and we'll correct that like we did. But we're not out there to fake things. We might want to kind of ramp up the drama with a bit of music, or like a side look here or there, and that's part of what we see as like the sporting energy of the show. But we're not setting out to fake anything or mislead the viewer. We just want to kind of tell these stories in the most exciting way possible, because it's a really dramatic, exciting sport. And you guys know, and I know because I've been there in these garages in the paddock. Like it's very dramatic on the ground. So we want to put a show together that represents a bit of that.
Say again. I wanted to discuss sporting documentaries in general. Since the success of Drive to Survive, we've seen a huge boom in them. Do you think that is all referenced from Drive to Survive, or that we're just now more aware of sporting documentaries?
I think Drive to Survive's probably had quite an influence in the genre. I think what the show did, particularly in the early days, that felt new, was kind of just peel back a layer. Sports fans see the matches or the races every week, and you get you get to enjoy the sporting element. And what Drive did was say, okay, well, what happens when the driver goes home after the race, or what happens in private between qualifying and peeling back that layer, I think really resonated with people, didn't it? And then that's almost certainly influenced a lot of sports programming since then. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think every sports needs a Netflix moment? Or a Disney moment, or
maybe
a
not
here in
curling.
Australia's Stan? Curling to survive.
Although that Canadian team controversy would make for great TV.
Yeah, I mean,
have you seen the guys?
Did you hear about the drama with the
Canadian
ice skating? Yeah, was that what you were talking about? The ice skating,
the curling. Oh no, no.
Where like everyone's saying the US was robbed and the French won it, and there was all this. Yeah. I mean, that would be great if I had a camera in that dressing room after that. Yeah, happy day.
I think they needed it at the Winter Olympics, because there was a lot that was going down. I mean, I don't know if you were following this, but there was even something called Penis Gate going on, because they were saying some of the guys in, their tight ski suits were injecting hyaluronic in a different area to make them more buoyant in the air. So,
but I thought it was something to do with it's something to do with the uniform when they got fitted.
Yeah.
Because if you have more fabric on the uniform, it means that you go higher. And so they would inject themselves when they would have their fitting, and then wild
for sports documentaries. But I guess F1 really just did kick it off. And this format works so well. Do you think it could work for the Drive to Survive format and recipe could work so well for any other sport, like say football?
I think so, yeah. I think it's all about learning something new about the characters. And I keep using that word character. Like, these are real people, obviously, football players or F1 drivers or whatever. But, when you're making a show like this, they are characters, because ultimately you want your viewer to invest in them. And any show that can tell you something new about that football player or that F1 driver or that tennis player, I think is a good thing, because it brings the sport kind of closer to the viewer, which as a sports fan myself is something I really enjoy. Yeah.
I think it's interesting as well that a couple of 2 years ago, Elle and I actually had a chat with Esteban Ocon, and we got into the topic of Drive to Survive, and sort of similar to what Elle mentioned before, where we've had people troll us and say, you're only Drive to Survive fans. And we were having this conversation with Esteban. We're like, also, what's the problem with being a Drive to Survive fan? Like, what's the issue? And Esteban was like, you know, in the end, this has been great for us. I mean, like, exactly, there are some drivers that maybe had a bit more of a pushback, but it's like, this has been great. It's just another level of marketing, another way to get our names out there that maybe they wouldn't have previously. And even actually on the topic of it, I actually thought it was really great when, I can't remember what season it was. It would have been one of his first seasons where we got that backstory about him and everything that his family had done, and, you know, really humanizing someone rather than just looking at someone as a driver that maybe is showing a bad side of their personality because they, you know, they were out in Q1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's that showing the human side, isn't it? Because they do this incredibly dangerous and, you know, dramatic sport that we watch and we enjoy, and then it's, you know, I think separating anything that kind of can separate the sporting stuff and the human stuff is interesting. And yeah, your example there with Esteban, I think that episode's a really good example of how the show can show you something quite different to what you would get in your kind of weekly sports broadcasting. So yeah, I think it's I don't see a downside to it. And when people say, "Oh, you're just a Drive to Survive fan," I don't really understand what their point is, to be honest. Like, you know, you can choose to like the show and engage with the sport in whatever way you want. And yeah, I think it's
well, thank you. It's great TV.
Yeah. I was going to say, if we're getting a troll comment, how would you reply to it? You're us for a second. How are you replying to it?
If you don't want to watch it, don't watch it. But also, if people are enjoying it, you know, let them enjoy it. And yeah, I find it quite confusing when people have an issue with the show.
People are silly.
Well, look, you can't please everyone.
I think Lando called, in one of our episodes, Lando called them the keyboard warriors.
That's a great way to put it.
That's what they are.
I was going to say, I think a good way is just be like, well, I learned more about this driver and his birthday or his dog.
You sound like such a mum right now.
Oh, I know. Actually,
gotta cut you off.
I learn about Carlos's dog. Very cute.
Oh, look, I love the show. But what is the best story you've been part of, Dave? Like, in terms of filming, or that you've just like, this favorite is like just so good, like absolute TV gold. And worst moment as well. I want to know your worst moment. And
also that you can legally speak about.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. I think my favorite shoot was probably with Lando a couple of years ago. Do you remember a scene where he's driving his little green Fiat Jolly in Monaco?
Yes, my brain went straight to that scene.
Start of season 6, I think, and that was really fun to do. And we were in Monaco. We'd arranged to meet him at his apartment, and I remember texting him and I said, you know, are you ready for us to come up? And he said, "Oh, I'm just in the shower." And I said, "Oh, can we start rigging the car and putting a camera in the car?" And he said, "Oh, which one do you want to take?" And I said, "Oh, your Fiat Jolly." And he was like, "What the fuck? We can't fit in the Fiat Jolly, like it's tiny." And I was like, "No, it would be cool. Like, trust me." And so luckily he did. So we all got into this tiny little thing, and I was in the back filming, and I had a director of photography in the front also filming. And we went for a drive, and it broke down. And Lando blamed me, and I had to make it.
It was your call.
It was my call. I had to make it. I think I bought him a Coca-Cola at like the petrol station where we pulled over. I was like, "Sorry, man." Anyway, he was cool. He was really cool about it. We ended up leaving it there and giving him a lift home, but we got the shots already, so that was a really fun one. And he actually that was a great day because we planned to film with him, but we didn't really have, you know, we didn't know what we were going to get. And he said, "Oh, I've invited some people to play paddle." I was like, "Cool. Who have you invited?" He was like, "Oh yeah, just like Max, George, and Alex." And I was like,
gold.
Like completely
gold.
Like not sure. So we just went to this paddle court, and Max turns up, and Alex is there, and George is there, which obviously for us is gold, right? But it wasn't It wasn't planned. So that was a really nice moment where it kind of all came together, and we ended up getting some really nice stuff. I'm trying to think of a bad moment. What do you mean, like where it's been awkward or?
Well, it could have been awkward. It could have been just like, this is
Unenjoyable.
really hard to film. Yeah, that could have been weather elements. I don't know. Just anything that you were just like, this is just hard. You know.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not great. It's not Monaco with the Fiat Jolly.
No, yeah, that's dreamy. Look, there have been a lot of like weekends where it is a bit of a slog. I mean, I remember, at one particular storm, I think it was Spa, which is obviously a bit of a cliche because it rains a lot.
Standard.
Yeah, you're there with the camera and there's not much going on and it's pissing it down and you're thinking, what on earth? But this is the good thing about making this show, is that it's in those moments where you think, fuck this, that suddenly something over there happens. And that's what we love, because we'll just be kind of shooting for hours and hours and hours and feeling like it's a waste of time, and then suddenly something happens here or something happens there and you've got a story. So honestly, I've loved every minute. Never a bad moment.
David, I was gonna ask just quickly on that story with Lando. In terms of the behind the scenes and how that exactly works, do you, and obviously if you can answer this, in terms of, do you, for example, have, set days that you're going to be filming with a specific driver, and then do you guys come up with that concept? Did you specifically and the team think, let's think of a concept where we're filming Lando in one of his cars? Does he then send a list of the cars he has and you're deciding, or how exactly does that work?
It's a bit more fluid than that. So yeah, we will talk to the team and also driver management about, we'd love to do something, when is Lando or any other driver available, and then we'll usually get some time in the diary. Obviously these guys are super busy, and so it's never like loads of time, but they'll say, look, Lando's up for doing some filming in Monaco when he's got a bit of downtime, and then we'll kind of, depending on what the story is that year, we will come up with some suggestions, or we kind of let the driver tell us what do they might be going to the gym, they might be going for lunch, they might be meeting a friend, so in a dream world we don't set anything up. We'll just arrive, we'll just shoot like what's happening naturally, and then sometimes we put some stuff in place. So like, that day I wanted to get some shots of Lando driving, so obviously there's a little bit of stuff that has to go on behind the scenes there. We have to get permission to get a drone up in the air, and we have to know roughly what roads we're going to shoot on. So to that extent there's a little bit of planning that takes place, but the best moments of this show and what we're like constantly looking for is when we let the drivers or the team bosses kind of dictate everything, and we can just observe, because that's just where we
be there.
That's where we get the most authentic.
Do you ever feel that it's sometimes a lot of that is organic content that you're filming, that there are hard moments and you're just like, I feel uncomfortable filming this organic moment? It could be some like a storyline of someone being upset and showing emotion, and you kind of also just want to be like, I want you to have your moment privately, but also I know that this is important to our storyline.
Yeah, we have to be really respectful, and we have to know where the boundaries are, and we have to listen to the drivers or the teams. If they tell us to stop, we do. That's there's a mutual respect there. So if we're following a driver who's had a bad race or just like had some bad news or something, and they're clearly upset, we will be making eye contact with them, with the comms team, making sure that it's okay for us to be there. And sometimes it is, and that's great. And we are really lucky that there's moments where we do get let in, because I think the drivers and the people who work for the teams, they understand that it's important for us to be there for those difficult moments, as well as the lows as well as the highs. But of course there are moments where we get asked to leave, and that's part of the job, and we're respectful, because we're making a show and we want to do it as authentically as possible, but we also have to respect the fact that this is, these are professional athletes who sometimes need us to leave the room, and that's fine.
You're humans in the end.
There you go.
Good
Yeah,
humans.
good.
I
Yeah, they are.
I want to know, we recently saw the trailer, which is very exciting for the new season. It's
Good.
honestly,
Good.
as I watched it, I thought, gosh, they're good. You did very well. Whoever put that trailer together, chef's kiss, fantastic. But I want to know, what can we expect from this coming season besides us?
Well,
I
no,
mean,
not us. We're not in there.
As in, besides us not being in there.
Yeah.
it's an exciting one. I mean, there was so much change on the grid, wasn't there? If you remember back to Melbourne a year ago, all of the rookies.
I mean,
I feel
Jack
like
Doohan was racing in Melbourne.
Jack was racing. Yeah. Jack was racing, and his story is an important one for us. Or was an important one for us last year. And yeah, there's a fair amount of rookie stuff. Obviously, the big news at the start of last year was, how is Lewis going to get on? So. And do you remember the kind of big launch in London, that big F1 75 launch?
75 live.
Yeah, that was really good fun. So there's lots of good stuff. There's like that back to school vibe with that event, which is great. Yeah, lots of drama, lots of gossip. The usual stuff that we love, and some really good races as well. Like some really good on track moments for the fans to enjoy.
It is. It
Will we
definitely
see
is
a big
nice
like
sort of
Oscar Lando battle?
walk.
Surely, because
What do you think? Look,
I just want to see how that plays out.
Yeah, that was a really interesting dynamic, wasn't it? And a really interesting story from both, Lando's point of view, from Oscar's point of view, and also from the team's point of view. So yeah, you'll definitely see a bit of that.
Oh, we lost Pat. She's dropped off. That's okay. She'll come back. It's that story in particular, like F1 has always been huge in Australia. It's been progressively getting bigger and bigger, especially as Drive to Survive has come out. But I've never seen so much traditional media talk about F1 as they did last year because of Oscar Piastri and the battle with Lando Norris and McLaren and everything. It nearly daily, it was mentioned either on the radio, newspapers, TV. I was kind of like, what is going on? Like, it's mid-season. You guys never talk about F1 all of a sudden. So I think there's going to be even more eyeballs on this season because you've definitely captured, well, they did, not you, sorry, you're not driving, but they captured the whole of Australia.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good story, isn't it? It's two young drivers at the top, at kind of the top of their game, and of course they want to beat each other. And it's the episode hopefully gives like an interesting but fair kind of assessment of how the season went for the team. Yeah, I think I really like that one, and hopefully people enjoy it.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, to wrap us up, because you do have to get on with your day, and I also have to get to bed, being 10:30 at night. Last question: if Drive to Survive didn't exist, what would F1 look like today, in your opinion?
Interesting question. I think there'd probably be like fewer dogs in the paddock.
Yeah, I could say that. Emotional support animals.
There'd probably be more gossip in the paddock, because everyone's now like, they know that our boom microphone is lingering, so everyone's there's kind of hushed tones because Netflix might hear. I don't know. I guess you could say it wouldn't be as big as it is. But yes, it's kind of impossible to say, isn't it? But it does feel like the show has hand in hand with the sport, just grown in a big way. So yeah, it's an interesting question. Not sure. What do you think?
I think there would be a lot less female fans. I think the show really gave an avenue to welcome female fans and also younger people into it, and felt more included because it gave them that insight. Whereas before it was a lot more probably a blokey followed sport. I mean, myself and so many other girls that have grown up watching the sport have always said, oh, our dad's got us into it. It's kind of just the avenue you've gone down. So I think it's really opened up a lot of that. I think we have the Supercars Championship here in Australia. I almost think that they need this style of show, because every weekend they're somewhere, there's 20 teams and they're just going nuts. You know, you think of all the endurance races they do up in Bathurst is just incredible. So going to the Bathurst, which if you haven't been before, you need to get yourself up to New South Wales and go to that race, on Mountain Panorama. It's wild. And I imagine that's what...
So I just plugged it in my...
That's right. I imagine that's what it would sort of still be like. I mean, now the security at the F1 is so strict. I used to just walk into the paddock and, you know, like I'd just be palmed off and then be like walking around with Michael Massey and he'd have to deal with me. So times have changed. That's not the case anymore. You can't just let your kid walk in and deal with it now. You very strict passes and security, and you have to be FIA approved.
Yeah. I mean, it's I guess that is partly what the show has done. But the sport, I mean, I'm sure the sport would have continued to grow anyway without it. But I think, it's particularly in the States as well, it's given it this big kick, hasn't it?
It's given its presence. Well, thank you so much, David, for joining us. I know Pat would love to still be here, but we have no idea where she has gone. It's disappeared. I'm very conscious of your time, but thank you so much. Thank you for also just inviting us onto the show to begin with, and that we could meet you guys and get this incredible insight. But no, thank you for cutting us out of Drive to Survive, because would have liked that claim to fame. I was ready to start an IMBD. I wanted to put Eleanor Bailey, who Drive to Survive, next to it.
Well, look, I really hope you enjoy season 8, even though you're not starring.
I'm sure I can deal with it. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Well, we look forward to seeing you.
See you in Melbourne.
Yes, we'll see you in Melbourne. If you would like to tee up an interview with us, we are available. We will try extra hard to not be cut.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, amazing. Thank you, and have a very, very good day.
Nice one. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.